Welcome to another episode of After Intuition Podcast, where we try to help you guys crack that crazy girl code. I'm your host, Keisha L. Blair, and I have my co-host, Essence Yarbrough. Essence, welcome back. We're going to get right into it, and we're going to be talking about the Mack where we left off last week.
The Mac. So that was a really great movie. We got to watch it again, and just to kind of go over, the tips and the points and the messages that we got out of that was really powerful last week. So if they didn't catch that, they need to go back and see that episode
Yes, yes, yes.
because it was really good, and it's a lot.
So where we left off last episode, we were just talking about the one who cares the least controls the relationship. And I think I brought up where, where he was laying in the bed with the woman he met or reconnected with when he got out of jail. And she said something to emasculate him. And later on in the movie, where she had a scene where she was crying, needing his help. And he was just like, he felt like he didn't handle that first situation well. So he had to act like he didn't care about what she was going through when he really did. So, you know, um, talking about the one who cares least controls the relationship and trying to maintain control when you know you really like someone, that can be very, very difficult because you try to keep your emotions out of it. And sometimes, it doesn't go over like you want it to. I know for myself, I've definitely had to sometimes just pull my emotions back when I'm in certain situations because I can kind of see that, sometimes the more you care, the person in the relationship, the other person may start to act as if, you know, they don't care as much or treat you like because they know you care that they have you wrapped around their finger. So, have you ever been in a situation like that before?
Yes, I have, and it's interesting because when I seem uninterested, when I pull back, or really it's when I'm kind of frustrated and fed up. I believe I almost feel like it's a manipulation tactic because
Hmm.
you pull back sometimes, you're like so frustrated. So then you pull back and you're like, you know what, I'm done with this. But I'll pull back without the attitude, right? I'll just pull back. And then what I realize is that that put me in a more of a position of power, at least of myself, right? And then it would leave it up to that other person as to whether or not they were going to let me leave or go, I mean leave or stay or whatever they were going to do to try to keep me got stronger, from me pulling back. And it made them more emotional in those instances, whereas before I would typically be the more emotional one. But from being emotional in the past, I realized I benefited more just with my own well being to just kind of not care, but I had to show sometimes that I just care more about me. So,
Mm.
yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely see I see where it does create power. I have been typically the one in the relationships that's been the one to not have the power because, as you know, and especially as a woman, you're like, oh, I want to nurture. Let me show you how much I love you. Let me show you how much I care. But then what happens is that guys, some guys I feel like, and you just correct me if I'm wrong, Keisha, but I feel like sometimes guys like if you're giving them so much, it's as if they don't have to work so hard for you. And the females that don't give them
Mhm.
so much, they don't, then they try to work hard. Like, okay, if I really want her attention, if I really want her to, to be on my arm or to be with me, I got to do more for her because she ain't just going. So for anything.
Yeah.
So do you see that? What do you think that is with guys
Yeah.
or just,
So I like what you said about the control aspect, right? Because it is really about a control thing because it's almost like in the game of life and the game of relationships, it's almost like people have the tendency to try to get before they get got. So when you think about dating someone and you show your cards and you lay your hand on the table and they see how much you like them, and like I said, before, I'm not going to say it's men, I'm not going to say it's women, it's just people. Whenever you have someone that you see the potential to try to get over on them, a lot of people will jump at that advantage to just try to get over on that person. If they see that I can probably get a little bit more money from this guy because I see how he likes me, Or a guy may think that I can probably get away with a little bit more with this woman because I see how much she likes me. I don't have to do as much for her because I see how much she likes me. Like you mentioned about, he may do a little bit more and go above and beyond for the one that he may feel doesn't like him as much. Whereas it should really be the reverse. The one who's really into you, you should like who likes you and give to the person who's into you. But we don't tend to do that as people. We tend to go and chase the things that we can't have.
Yes. I think it's kind of sad. I think oftentimes I've seen women, like the good girl gets run over, or the good guy gets run over and
Mhm.
overlooked or used. And then it's the hot girl, it's or just different scenarios that we could mix all day long. But, what do they say? They want a freak in the sheets and a lady in the streets. But nowadays it seems like they want just a freak in the sheets. You know what I mean? Like they want to parade the freak in the sheets around and just don't want you to don't want you to cheat on them.
Well, I'm going to say this. I think that's true what you said about a lady in the streets and a freak in the bed. So they still want that. However, just because they're parading somebody around in the streets doesn't mean that's their woman. Like, when I say them, of course, guys, when guys have that girl, just
Right.
she's eye candy. She's just like, okay, this is somebody to where I can just show her off as an arm piece, but that doesn't mean she's going to be the one he takes to family functions. That's not the one he's going to take home to meet his mother. That's not the one he's going to, pour his all into, but she's his eye candy. So I kind of think that just from the relationship aspect and with Karen, at least, guys will have a girl like that to where they can just have her around as an arm piece and still not really pour into her because, it's really just for one purpose.
Yeah, I think we definitely see that a lot in these reality shows. We definitely see a bunch of
Mhm.
that. But you know what? You remind me of something when you just said that. A friend of mine, a guy friend of mine, told me some years back. He said, "Essence, a man will take a woman, dress her up, doll her all up, get her everything she wants, take her on trips, step out in the freshest with her together, and just spoil her in the public's eye. And he's using that woman to get side chicks. He's using that woman to pull other women." And when he told me that, I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And he was like, "I don't, he
Yeah.
was like, I don't know that that's just the average guy." He said, "But a guy that got it like that, that's the thing that we do." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" So I wonder if the guys that are watching this, if they've ever heard of that or done that themselves.
Oh,
But
of
that's
course. I
interesting.
mean, that's nothing new. Like, I mean, but it's really the women, right? So it's like you got the woman who are the one who's looking at this other woman like they see that this woman that he's with is being wine and dine or whatever the case may be, and they may want that for themselves. So yeah, of course they're going to try to get with him on the side if they can to try to get a little taste of it. I've actually had that happen with someone that I was out with, and it may have, someone may have tried to get his number on the sly or just because they think they can. But to me, I think that's a very insecure woman who would do something like that. Um,
Right.
but they just want to see if they can. Salt and pepper, I'll take your man, right? So
I'll take your man.
yeah,
Right.
so
Hey,
they just
that was
want
the
to see if they can
jam,
take your
though.
man. And of course, we already talked about
Yeah.
our guys. They there is if they see an option, if they see an opportunity um, that they can get away with, more likely they're going to take advantage of it. So. Um, whose fault is it really? The
Do
woman's
you?
fault or the guy's fault?
Right. Well, and that's where I always like think about the esteem, right? The esteem of somebody, like what kind of esteem is it, more high, is it low? That affects character and that affects
Mhm.
the opportunities, that we'll take, in life. And so the mindset, sometimes it depends on the need. Like you'll have people that have jumped on an opportunity just because they're like, look, I got out of survival mode. Then you have other people that have
Mhm.
try to jump to an opportunity because of emotional isms, right? Then you have other people that jump to that opportunity for the sake of opportunity. It's within itself, career opportunity, financial opportunity, so whether it's shallow or out of trauma or, survival or
Mhm.
whatever, it's just the reality that people do it. And it's, I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon.
Well, but then, so let's think about this aspect, right? So you're talking about what you mentioned a second ago. guys who will do all these things for a woman just so he can get noticed by other women. That tends to
Right.
usually cause drama in relationships because then once he gets those other women, there are certain things that they start doing, like, and we'll roll into our other topic here. There are certain things that men start doing and it causes drama in the relationship, right? So in order to stay in a drama-free zone, guys need to really think about some of the things, some of the positions that you put a woman in, because we're going to react, and that's when that crazy girl comes out.
Yeah.
Because you, we see this woman, and then you might say it's just a friend or whatever, and then we see you start doing stuff like turning your phone upside down, or just doing certain things that you normally didn't do. And investigative women like we are, our intuition's telling us these things, and we tend to go with our intuition, and that causes drama in a relationship. Guys be the first ones to say, I don't
Yeah.
like drama, but bruh, y'all don't want to cause some drama.
Right, that's an excellent point. I think sometimes because they might not be loud, arguing, fussing, they think that they're not causing the drama. But sometimes it's like the person you ever see. It's like cats, right? Dogs will start going crazy if the cat's messing with it. It just keep doing this little thing where it's just kind of pawing and clawing at it, but nobody sees it, right? But then when the dog just starts barking and going off, then everybody starts yelling at the dog to shut up, right? It's kind of like that. It's easy to say that a person that is reacting is the dramatic one, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the truth. The drama can come from from overlooking simple things that can kind of spark the insecurities within others, right? Not saying that the man
Mm.
is responsible for the insecurities of his woman. She's got to be aware of that as well. But there are various ways, to prevent by just being aware if you really care for that person,
Mhm.
and communicating is one of the ways. If she says something, she might not say it right. Don't focus on if she's like, why are you turning your phone over? you know, just say, okay, you can look at that and say, okay, it's causing her to feel some type of way. Hey, babe, why do you think me turning my phone over is making you feel like this? What's the actual thought that you're having, as opposed to just yelling at me? And this can spark some drama. You know what I mean? So
So,
communication can really help.
so let me ask you a question. So, how do you feel about women who go through a man's phone, or actually, I'm just gonna keep on women. Have you ever went through somebody's phone before?
Yes, I have. I typically do not. I have to say, yeah, so 98%, I'm gonna tell you. So 90, matter of fact, I'll say 99.9% of the time, I never went through a phone, right? Because
Mm.
that's just none of my, I don't, it's a verse in the Bible that says, whatever is in the dark will come to light. So that's always what I've gone by, and I've always found out what was going on because it would end up being right there in front of me. So
Mm.
the one time I did do it, I found out everything. And I was like, yep. And I didn't regret it, not one little bit. And it was
Mm.
in, a serious situation that I had to make a life choice on. And this person was just like complete, stonewall, couldn't figure out anything. And this was a person very vital to my life. So, in my decisions at the time. So yeah, I did. I actually did it in front of him. I did it in front of him. And of course, he was not happy about it. I just we were in the car. His phone rang. It unlocked his phone. I took his phone and I just looked at it and I scrolled to a number that I had seen pop up. I don't know I remember the number. And I saw it and they were declaring their love for each other. I said, that's all
Man,
you had to tell me.
well, first of all, I feel like if you go looking for
But no,
information,
I
or
don't
if you
agree
go
with that.
looking for something, you're gonna find it, right? So,
Right.
I've only done it once in my life. It was a lot long, long, long time ago,
Yeah, me
and
too.
of course,
Long time
one
ago.
of the things that I wanted to know, because when you go looking for something, you're definitely gonna find it. But what are you gonna do with the information once you see it, once you find it? So, like I think I was in my maybe 20s or early 30s, late 20s, And since that moment, I guess I had an opportunity to reflect. And I'm like, I'm totally against that. I don't do that. And it's because, for one, it's someone's private, things. I don't want anybody going through my private stuff. I don't care how deep we are in a relationship. I mean, if I give it to you, that's fine. But for you to just pick up my phone and want to go through it, nah, I'm not doing that to you, and I don't want you doing that to me. I'm definitely not on board with that. Um, and some people may differ, may think that, okay, they can just be an open book. It's not about, to me, it's not about having secrets. It's just about respecting someone's privacy. Um, but yes, I
Right.
have done it
And
before.
that's how,
Yeah.
yeah. I did not regret it at that time. I think that, excuse me, I think that overall, when I did that, I was like at wit's end at that point. Had it just been a normal relationship or something like that, I wouldn't have done it. And I've never done that in like just regular
So,
relationships. But I do not agree that it is a good thing. And I know people, I've come across people, they think that they just have to do that. And I'm like, if you have to do that with the person off top that you're seeing, that's probably just not your person. You know what I mean? But the
exactly.
only reason
Yeah.
why I had to do that is I'm gonna go ahead and just say it. I respectfully, and I know he wouldn't mind me saying this, it was my marriage. So at that
Yeah.
point, I had to know something. But in a regular relationship, I've never gone through a phone ever because there are
Mhm.
other ways to see a person's character, in my opinion. Um, and because of their character, you can kind of see certain things. And I wanted to actually say, we're talking about the drama-free zone, and I know we were talking about the one, about the who's controlling, the one who does the least controls the relationship. That alone also can spark a lot of drama when you have men who will act like they don't care sometimes, being a little bit too stoic
Mhm.
sometimes. Women will start to also feel like they have to be dramatic. Like I remember one time I got so mad at a guy that I just started pushing him. I was like, why do
Mhm.
you not care? Like, and I never, at that point, I remember I stopped myself and I said, you know what? If it's to this point, we just don't match. And I was like, I am so
Mhm.
sorry. And then I got my stuff and I left. I never talked to him again, I think, until he hit me up and was like, hey, selling some puppies. And I was like, oh, cool, bring them, let my mom see. And then we never talked again. You know what I mean? Um, so I would like to, I came across a really good article in Psychology Today, but I want to wait until there's anything that you wanted to say about those things, Keisha. But I wanted to go over some things that I had come across in an
Mhm.
article regarding things that actually like create dramatic situations that I found very interesting psychologically.
So I just wanted to say really quick, just it's almost like a balance when you talked about how someone may pull back or be more stoic or just stonewall, right? Then you have another person to where they're wanting that energy. They're wanting to see a response from that person. So they may turn theirs up a little bit and the other person may turn theirs down. So it's almost like a balance. It's like the more one gives, the less the other one gives. So it's like a teeter totter. Um, that's what I wanted to say. But so what did you tell me about the article?
Okay, so we had a train that went by, so I was just listening to you, and I didn't want y'all
Oh,
to take that. I
good.
didn't want your listeners to hear that,
I
girl.
appreciate
Okay,
that.
but yes, that is actually, yeah, that is actually so. Yeah, I never thought of it like that. That it does kind of create a balance with that push pull. I know
Mhm.
there's that whole push pull methodology or
Mhm.
situation that happens. So yes, so with Psychology Today, what they said, these are some of the main things that I've seen and that you've seen, that we've
Mhm.
all probably done. But attention seeking, learned behaviors, obviously from
Okay, well,
family and different
wait, you
circles.
got to give me some examples now for each one.
You
When
want to
you
go
say
over one at a
attention
time?
seeking, yeah, give me attention seeking and give me an example. It doesn't even have to be a personal example, but just something to where you would, consider it to be attention seeking.
I will. I just want to give them first. I want to give the five, and then we can go through them if you
Okay.
wanted to. I
All
just
right.
wanted.
Cool.
We can do the examples, but okay,
Yeah.
attention seeking, learned behaviors from family in your circles, self destructive behaviors from emotional, physical, sexual traumas, manipulation and control, and then excitement. So, of course, attention seeking is just, Oftentimes you have people that, or the woman or the man is like, hey, you're not catering to my ego enough, right? The woman is like,
Mm.
hey, you're not giving me enough attention. What are some things that you've seen, Keisha, with attention seeking?
Well, that's what I'm
Oh,
trying to get you to give
starting
me an
arguments.
example.
Oh,
Yeah,
I was
start
about
an
to say,
argument.
so I was going
So,
to say,
mm,
starting an argument, and those things, the attention seeking obviously can come from various places. It was, my parents weren't there, or I was belittled a lot. I need extra validation. Just a lot of this comes out of childhood or later on when we've been hurt by different
mm,
situations, that now it's like I need healing in this area. I'm expecting you to give me that healing. I'm expecting you to give me that validation. I'm expecting you to
mhm.
be aware of my trauma so that you don't trigger me, right? So that attention seeking can spark a lot of stuff. How many times have you seen situations in the club or heard about people in the club where it's like, he like how I look, you ain't said nothing. You know what I mean? It could be situations like that. I've known that situation to occur that sparked a couple of fights. Where the
That's
dudes
where
are
I was
going
kind
at
of
each
thinking
other.
about, like, well, just where you said about like being in the club or just being out in an environment. A person may go above and beyond, maybe in the way they walk, just to seeking attention from the opposite sex. Women,
Yes,
we do that often,
yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
just doing things, being loud, right? Being extra loud, walking into a room. If let's just say you and your man are walking into a room and there's other women in the room, so then she's gonna boast, or the man walks into the room and he's just got to walk around and he's gotta, he puts a little extra pep in his step, or
Oh
he
no, you
might
know what they
belittle or
call that?
start checking other people in the
No,
room.
no, no, no,
What?
no, no. That's called marking their territory.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I
Yes,
know exactly what it is. That's
true.
called marking
Or
their
or
territory.
or that's marketing. You know what? You are on point. Or with just bringing the type of woman, also marking, but bringing a certain type of woman into the space with him. Right? I want to seek attention. You know what I mean? I want to be known as this or that. That is definitely a part of it. So the learn behaviors from family. So growing up in positions of abusive families, right? Where you maybe
Mhm.
they're saying that you had like a narcissistic father or mother, or you had a parent or parents with borderline personality disorder. In other words, they're just high and
Mhm.
low. You know what I mean? Like they're so unpredictable that you're just trying to guard yourself at any given moment, and you've created these tactics within yourself in order to fight against that, just in case. Okay, how's she gonna act today? Okay, how's she gonna act tomorrow? Okay, well, she cool now with it. So a man might sometimes guard, or any person will guard themselves,
Mhm.
and they might be a stoic person, or might be a person that's ready to pop off. But either way, either extreme can create that imbalance, like you were talking
Yeah,
about,
okay.
where
Mhm.
you have to learn, right? So being aware of that,
What-
self-destructive behaviors. I'm sorry.
No, I was waiting on the third one. You said the third one is self-destructive behavior.
Yes,
Yeah.
self-destructive behavior, which will come from the emotional traumas, the sexual traumas, the physical traumas. But it can cause a lot of low self-esteem. A lot of times, the drama that comes out of that comes out of low self-esteem. I remember I had a friend of mine who was in a horrible car crash, right? Horrible, horrible car crash,
Yeah.
and so it ruined how he looked at the time. It ruined what he was making. It redirected his life. And so he kind of had a thing against black women at that point, because he was like, ugh, black women didn't want to mess with him. So he intentionally would act out with black women and just kind of start talking
Mhm.
crazy. He had like a bit of an issue with them, and he, paraded more white women around him. But as a to black women, right? And I was so happy he even shared that. He was a guy I used to talk to. He was a really great guy, is a great guy. I'm sure saw him
Yeah.
recently. He seems pretty cool. And and so it's interesting though, because you have different traumas. So it doesn't have to be just emotional at first. It could be that something just really changed your life and causes you to self destruct, and you just never found that healing. So you might think that it could have been somebody that you lost out of your life. People leave you all the time, or people
So what?
die. I know some people.
So,
Hmm.
but you got to think about sometimes when you're in those situations, the person doesn't even really think or know that they even have a problem, right? So if you're in
Right.
a relationship with someone like that and you see that that is causing drama or creating a toxic environment, then from as a woman, one thing, it just, to me, it just depends on how much I like that person. And if I like that person, I'm probably going
Mhm.
to stay and try to work it out because of how much I care about them.
Right.
But if it's at the beginning and we're not even 3 months in and you start doing this stuff, it might be something I'm like willing to just say, I'm just going to cut this off because I'm not even willing to deal with all that drama. And I'm sure guys, you got guys out
See,
there who are the same way.
and I think that's wise. I think it's very wise. Which actually, because and I would say that it is wise for us individually to all be aware of, where do I hold low self-esteem at? Because this
Mhm.
might be, and I'm going into a relationship, this could be a place where I might spark some drama. If it that's
Um,
the self-awareness is everything. You know what I mean? Like, just being aware, like, okay, I know I don't feel the strongest in this area. Is that where the drama's coming from? And this is for male or females, right?
yeah.
Just being aware of that, being aware what, if I was sexually abused, you know, there could be some drama that's coming up out of that. Why don't I like him? So I was sexually abused, right? So when I got married, I remember I had a season where I was like, yo, like, I wanted to fight my ex one day. I just wanted to fight him. He was like, "What's wrong?" And I
Mhm.
was like, "Oh my God, I don't know." And I had to stop and say, "Wait, whoa, whoa, whoa." And I went and I got healing for that. You know what I mean? And then I never had the problem
Yeah.
again. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
So
emotional
today, you
trauma.
bring up
Hmm.
self-awareness. So I had a coaching call. So I'm in ET's Eric Thomas Extreme Execution, and I had a coaching call with someone today. So
Yeah.
one thing that we do is go through what he calls a flight assessment, and you have to basically break down, ask you certain questions, and it breaks down who you are as a person. So one of the questions that they asked me was, what is my understanding of self-awareness? Of course, I'm like, it's awareness of yourself, but it's also aware of how you respond to people and how what you're saying to someone causes them to respond back to you. Right? You have to,
And
like, and
you
that's
know what?
emotional intelligence.
That is a yes. How we respond, and I would even like to add how we show up in a space with somebody,
Mhm.
especially somebody we are intimate with, because we might think that we're showing up in the space perfectly fine because we've normalized our dysfunctions, our
Right.
toxicity, we've normalized
Mhm.
our normal, and that other person might not see that. And I compare that, if anybody can relate to this, you ever walk into a brand new house, not a brand new house, but a whole new space you've never walked in before that's been lived in, and you walk in, you smell everything in their house, but they don't smell
Mhm.
nothing.
Mhm.
Or somebody who ain't took no shower and they don't even smell themselves, and you're like, woo, I can smell that. You know
Oh,
what I
no
mean?
blind.
Like, yeah, nose blind. It's called being nose blind. Well, oftentimes we're mentally blind to ourselves sometimes.
Mhm.
So that self-awareness, being aware of self, like you said, being aware of how we respond to things, because we have to be, just because we allow people to bring up topics doesn't mean that we're vulnerable, but topics can make us feel vulnerable, right? It can trigger certain areas of vulnerability that maybe we should be okay to have these conversations with people. When somebody walks in and says, "Hey, I want to talk to you about this thing that I've noticed about our relationship," or they're fussing about it, maybe they're being dramatic about it. How are you reacting? Right? They're smelling something. They're trying to say, "Hey, I smell something. I don't know if it's you or me, but let's figure it out." We don't want to respond dramatically because we're
Mhm.
triggered. But the more self aware we are to these issues, the more we can say, "I know that's a vulnerable spot." So okay, let's sit down and maybe listen to this. It's no need to
Uh-huh.
feel injured in that moment. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
then what we went over self-destructive behaviors, manipulation and control. So sometimes people
Mm.
create the drama passive aggressively, and they're doing this, like some folks might make up stories to, like, manipulate somebody coming back into their lives. You know what I mean? It's just like,
Mm.
people will, we talked about like how a man might want you to dress or something, but I think that's too much of a fine line. But
What I'm
controlling
getting
who your
from this
friends
one,
are.
what I'm getting from this one is kind of like what we talked about in the beginning, right? Like the manipulation tactic. Person's going to do and say a certain
Yeah.
thing just to try to get control of you so they can have more power over you, right? So that goes back to the very
Yes.
beginning. We were talking about the situation with the Mac, right? And person's going to do
Yes.
things to try to manipulate you. And sometimes that's called poking the bear. A person will do things, and I know I got men that, they'll say, I was just testing you. Well, I'm gonna tell you what, you test me, I'm gonna make sure I fail every last one of them, bro, because hey, I'm on, but so I'm not into being tested,
Yes.
right? I want people to be upfront and honest with me. Because if you test me, I'm gonna give you what you're looking for. So but you have those people who will sit up there and poke the bear, and they will try to do things just to
Yeah.
see how you're going to respond. And it's like I'm not saying I know that's a guy thing. I have failed plenty of tests. I ain't gonna lie.
So have you heard this, Keisha, where you'll hear guys, I often hear more guys say this. They say, see how far you could push that woman. I hear it with men too, because women to say, see how angry you get that man. You'll know a man how he really is when he gets really angry, right? So they'll say to push his buttons until he gets really angry. But also you'll have men that'll like cheat on a woman. They'll just go as far as they can to see if she'll stay, and they'll work on if they want to try to keep her and manipulate her to stay later, right after
Well,
the fact. Have you heard of
that's
that?
well, I don't know about hearing it, but I mean, I probably lived it. But that's called, like, you just have to have boundaries, and you just have to worry about what you're willing to deal with. Because of course, like we said, a person's gonna get away with whatever you allow them to get away with, and if they can get over on you, I mean, person's gonna get you before you get them. So yeah, they're gonna try to do certain things, and I think that people will 100% try to go as far as they can until you hit the stop button just to see. And if you're gonna let him keep getting away with it, he's gonna keep on doing it. And I think you got some women out there who are like that too, right?
Right.
So you just have to consider and understand what those boundaries are and make sure that you're upfront and clear about, if somebody does something, you don't laugh it off. Don't let it just fall by the wayside and think that it's okay. And then it happens again. Oh, it's okay. Well, wait a minute. I have a problem with this. Well, you didn't have a problem with it the last two times I did it. Like, you know what I mean? So I think it's just up to us as people to, when you enter those situations in relationships, to where you're just, when something happens and you know it's not right, you just call it right there on the carpet. No, we're not doing this. I'm not going to accept this.
Right. Where
And
I
then,
see men.
well, I was
Mm-mm.
gonna say real quick, and then if it happens again, you have to be willing to make a decision because the person is calling your bluff now.
Yes. Yeah, oh my gosh. And you have to, yeah, because then if you say again, then you'll just hate yourself and you lose a little bit of yourself. I believe people do that, lose a little bit of themselves. They're not proud of that. And they have this hope that's like, for what? Because the person you train, the person you taught them how to treat you at this point, you stay.
Correct.
So, the biggest message you could send is leaving and just not, just moving on. And what I often see men do, and I think I've mentioned this before in a previous episode, is just how oftentimes men are not catching how women won't reciprocate, but they're constantly taking from the man. You know what I mean? Oh, he giving me some money. You're teaching that woman how to treat you. She's not having to do anything. You just, popping her off. You giving her money. You're giving her whatever she's asking for. She's able to act up, cut up, and you still are with her. You're still claiming her. She's able to talk crazy to you, disrespect you,
Yeah,
call you out your name, even hit
that's
you,
not cool.
and then men will still stay. It's not cool. I'm here to let that man know you got to go. You have to just leave that chick alone. You don't owe her nothing. Keep it pushing, unless you owe her
Yeah,
child support. Y'all got kids, that's another thing.
yeah. I'm gonna
But
say this
yeah,
too. I think
so
that when you get to
yeah,
situations like that where a person is treating you bad, don't ever stay with them. And I'm saying that for men and women, right? It's like, if I, because I golden rule. You treat people the way you want to be treated. But I have to go, I don't know if this is the platinum rule or not, but I treat them the way they treat me. Because if I'm treating you good and you don't like it and you're treating me bad, I'm going to start treating you the way that you treat me. And that'll more than likely be the end of the relationship. And it's not really a tit for tat. It's just more so about me showing you yourself at that point. And usually that's when the relationship normally ends.
Yes. And you know what's crazy is that when you stay with somebody that's not treating you right, you begin to resent them. And then if you stay with a person that allows you to treat them like that, they resent you. So either
Mm-hmm.
way, you're not like neither person is getting what they truly desire. They're just playing games at that point. Like you're wasting
Well,
energy, you're wasting money, emotions, and it's just drama.
Well, I think you're playing games all the time. It's like the whole relationship is just a push pull, like we mentioned, right? It's just a whole game, but it just depends on how well you play the game. Because usually in every game, there's always a winner and there's always a loser. Very seldom do you have relationships to where they actually go into it together and it's a partnership. Somebody is always trying to get ahead of the other person, or you have somebody who's jealous of somebody else. Um, and that kind of happens towards the beginning of the relationship too. I mean, just when you think about what you want in a person. Now, before I go into our next topic, I want to ask you: do we go over all five of those things that you read in your?
We still have one more.
What's the last one? What's the
Just
last
one
one?
more. Excitement. And it's really one that kind of pulls them together. It's excitement. It's just that you like the drama. You like being called out of your name. You like getting into fights because you like
Um,
the makeup sex. You know what I mean? You like, because if you don't have the drama, you've not filled the relationship with anything else, and therefore you think it's boring. You think that there's something wrong, but it's really just moving in a healthy direction, more of a healthy direction. And being quiet and just not speaking up on stuff doesn't mean that it's not dramatic. You got drama going on in here. You have, you know what I mean? It's like, go ahead, you want to say something?
I'm saying ain't nothing exciting about that. I got. I'm dealing with somebody. Well, I ain't gonna say let me just call no names. I dealt with a situation like that. I know somebody that dealt with a situation like that. No, like, girl, there's
No, no,
nothing
no.
exciting
Go
about
ahead.
that. About somebody
About what?
who
About which
constantly
part?
want to push you to the point to where you want to call them out of their name, or push you to the point to where like they want to be cursed out. It's like them like, look, we done. I'm not gonna keep. You're not gonna keep stressing me out, get my blood pressure high just because you trying to get a quick fix. Stop getting cursed out. What the heck? That's just crazy, girl.
Right. Right. But people really get a spark out of it. They get a kick. They don't like it. But you wonder, why do you keep going back? Why do you keep going back? But they keep going back because the thing is that they really want something better than nothing. You know what I mean? They
Mm.
want something better than nothing. Or it's like, well, if I'm because sometimes it's also used as a tactic for control and manipulation. Remember? So the excitement, if I have the drama, I'm not even really mad at you. I'm just gonna mess with you. I'm just gonna mess with you and get you upset just so I can pull you back in. Some people really find that exciting.
Mm.
Oftentimes, what was that I wanted to say? I think I wrote down something here. Um, oh, that's what it was. Because this is the thing that I had to do. You just have to train your brain to a new normal. And that's why I was saying it kind of ties everything together because out of all of it, it causes you to go back to your own self accountability, self awareness, and you have to really know what you want. You can't say that you want a really good woman that's not toxic and all of these things, but yet you're still bringing tools and elements that create, the counterproductive aspect of things. It creates the toxicity that you don't want. You're being counterproductive in the relationship if you're saying, well, I want this healing in this healthy woman, but I'm still used to functioning in this capacity. And therefore, it's not me, it's that person. Because like you said
Mm.
earlier, Keisha, a person might not see themselves. And so they go through years of thinking that it's been the other person. But even if you don't know about your own self, right? You don't see your own mess yet. The one thing that you can look and say is, I've been the common denominator in all of my relationships. Why am I choosing or ending up in these types of relationships? So even if you don't even want to look at your own stuff, you have to at least see that and say, well, either you're going to think it just ain't no good fish in the sea, or you're going to say, maybe my tactics for fishing is just all wrong. Maybe it's something in me that I'm baiting these women in with the wrong thing. Maybe I'm baiting a woman in with my money. Maybe I'm
Maybe I
baiting a
need a
woman
new
in with my
car.
ego.
No.
Maybe I need a new car, right? Maybe I do need a new car because I keep getting these chicks, but that's the whole thing. Because maybe you getting chicks that, they don't have any, maybe you want a woman that's got a little bit of, motivation about her, but she's okay with the dude with the dusty, 84 car. You know what I mean? I don't know. But
Mhm.
yes, it depends. But that you give yourself the opportunity and the space to say, what is it that I really am desiring? And do I match up to that? We talked about that in the previous episode, you
Yeah.
know, or the previous two episodes. It's like, what you want, are you that yourself? So if you want a woman that's healthy and self-aware and not about to give you drama, but then you're still attracted and excited by the drama, you got to check it.
So that brings us to our next topic, girl. Let me see if I can switch it here. Oh, my mouth is all over the place.
And my
Man.
apologies, listeners, if y'all are hearing the trains go by.
Man,
I'm
you're
in
in
a
the
train
train.
town
Hey,
right
you
now.
keep bringing it up. We ain't even hearing no train. Stop talking about it. All right. So the just my size. You said you have to. You mentioned something a second ago. What did you just end up saying? You said a person of what you're attracting, right? And
Yeah.
what is your type? So when you think about um just my size, most men have a type. Most men know what they want in a woman. Newsflash, women do too. We know we have a type. We know
Yeah.
exactly the kind of man we want, exactly the kind of man that we like. And sometimes when
Yes.
y'all brothers approach a woman thinking that just because she's your type, that you're her type, nah, that might not always be the case, right? So you got
Yes.
to be aware
Yes.
and look at those signals too, because sometimes a woman will look at, okay, well, he's really not my type, but you got a nice car. Oh, okay, and then you tell her what you do. He make good money, and that's when you get into that situation to where you know he may be just with her for one thing, and then now she's with him for one thing, and then it becomes a transactional situation, and neither one of them in it for love.
They're not meeting. And that's the other thing. I mean, as long as two people are happy and they're maybe that neither are looking for love, or if you know what you're looking for, and it might not be anything deep, if people are on one accord, that's great. It don't matter. It's great. It might not be the ideal. Maybe it is toxic. I don't know. But if that's what that person wants, then that's what that person wants, right? Who am I to judge? Right.
Well,
But I
look,
have to say something real quick. I gotta
yeah,
say, oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
no, no,
Well, I'm gonna say this and I'm thinking about this based off that what we were just talking about, the article, right? I don't want anyone with any undiagnosed issue. 'Cause I'm gonna say this. A lot of people might be out there trying to date someone, and they're like, oh, this is such an amazing person, but something is off. Something isn't right, right? And you might feel like, is this my person? But it just seems like it's something that's just there that you can't get past. And it's maybe not those other things that we just discussed, right? Maybe it's something like a personality disorder. Maybe you know what I mean? Like that's just been undiagnosed and that person hasn't received help. And the reason why I bring this up about the just my size is because people get stuck on trying to make somebody their type who they can never alter, whether that's with the
mm,
diagnosis or not. But it's harder with somebody when I've gone through this before, and that's why I'm bringing this up. It might seem random,
yeah,
but I've gone through this. There was somebody who had had a couple of diagnoses, come to find out, but they were undiagnosed most of their lives and didn't know any of this stuff until we had started dating. And there was no way I could fit a square peg into a round hole. And that's just how it's going to be in some relationships. But I think, Keisha, Do you think that people struggle with the realization of this because we just want what we want?
Well, I mean, you talking about being diagnosed. It's like, I don't know. Just because somebody say something don't mean you got to believe it. I'm sorry. I'm just going to live by that. Just because one person or psychologist, just because of what they learned, they may be going from their own childhood trauma. You try to tell me something wrong with me when clearly it's probably something wrong with them, because most psychologists, they got a
Right.
psychologist themselves, right? So I mean, when you say, I don't really believe the diagnosis. I mean, I'm a self-diagnose myself right now. If I feel like, and that's
Mhm.
where the self-awareness comes in, because you have to be aware of who you are inside and do your own research and not lean on to what somebody else tells you who they think you are. Because the only person
Right.
that really knows you is you, right? Nobody's going to know you better than
Right.
you. So, man, if somebody come to me, I was diagnosed with something, they gone somewhere with all that madness.
Right.
Um,
However, no, I believe in men going to doctors and getting some help. That's the thing. They
and
try
I'm
to stay
saying
away
there's
from
nothing wrong with
therapy.
that. But that don't mean you got to believe it just because someone, I'm going to go to the doctor. Oh, well, the doctor told me that I'm diagnosed with, that I have, um, I, I don't know, OCD, MC, whatever they got the acronym for
Mm,
now. And I start believing this, that creates, I think sometimes that we allow people to tell us things that we don't, just because they think it, that don't mean that it's true. And that creates a hypochondriatic mentality to where just because somebody told you that you're that way, the only person who could tell me that I'm something is me. I'm sorry. Now I'm going to listen to you. I might think about it, but I'm going to do my own research on me to make sure that we're in agreement, because, and then, maybe that's why I don't have a psychologist right now. I might need one, but I'm not gonna sit up here and let somebody just tell me something, because the only person other than God, the only
mhm.
person that knows me is me, right? So this is just
Right.
somebody's analysis. And just because it's their analysis doesn't mean that it's always true. So I'm saying that because you
How?
mentioned about the
Yeah.
diagnosis. And sometimes, and
Right.
if somebody diagnosed you a certain way, that's just their understanding of you. And it could just be based on what you shared with them. And that's what I mean by sometimes we have
Mhm.
to self-diagnose and make sure that we're aware of who we are inside.
So two things. Two things. Well, for one, I'm saying if it's behaviors, a pattern of behavior, so regardless of a diagnosis or not, if there's a pattern of behaviors and y'all just trying to make it fit and it ain't fitting, you gotta keep on moving, right?
Mm,
But you brought up something really powerful, how people will try to psychoanalyze another person. And I think
mhm.
women, as women, we try to psychoanalyze our men, and it's not fair because we
Yeah.
are not doctors. We are just another person and we got our own stuff, right? So that's why at the end of the day, I feel like it's a waste of time to try to figure out why people are behaving the way that they are. Because if that person isn't worried about why they are behaving the way that they are, why should you be worried about it? You got to just keep it moving if it don't work. But
Exactly.
you want to find your type, and you do have to be willing. I think we have to be or it's good to be willing to give it time to say, okay, is this my person? Right? Are you my type? Like, I see what I see in the beginning, but I do think that we kind of we're quick to kind of move on rather, the minute that we see, I don't know anything. But we talked about this before, how people think they have so many options that they're not sticking around, to really get deeper to find out who their type is. You know what I mean? I think
Mm.
people look for the surface type.
Yeah, that's that 666, right? Six pack, 6 feet, six figures. Yeah, that's the surface level. Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm not that person, but I'm just saying, like, that you got some women
Yeah.
out there who will just look for somebody, 6 feet tall, got a six pack and got six figures. Meanwhile, they walking around here 4'11", broke, and can't afford to buy the shoes they got on their feet. You know what I mean? So once again, you have to be willing to you have to make sure that you're what you're asking for. You can't go out here and ask for somebody to make six figures and you working at McDonald's, right? Um, can't go out here and
Right.
say somebody has a six pack and you sit up here, eating junk food and don't even go to the gym. Um, what was the other one? Six
There
figures,
are.
6 feet. And then and as far as
It's
height, I don't think that
well.
really even
Yeah.
matters. But
Yeah.
you just have to worry about yourself and make sure that you understand you. And I think once we know who we are inside, it will help us to find out who our perfect type is. Because I mean, I just talking about myself, the men that I was attracted to back probably in my 20s, I wouldn't even probably date those guys now. Like just because we may
Right.
not have been on the same level mentally, but back then I wasn't considering that. I was more of looking, like you said, as the surface and the outside of a person and not really looking at the inside. And even back then, I didn't even know who I was on the inside. So once you become more self-aware and find out what your type is, it'll help you to understand um, what you like in someone else.
I would definitely recommend people going back to the previous episode where we talked about the list because, yeah, it is a reflection. When you
Yeah.
write down your list of what you want in somebody, it will reflect back to you what you are capable of bringing, what you haven't brought, what you think you might be bringing, what you might not truly be bringing, and what you do bring. And yeah, that is an awesome point. You got to know yourself, and a lot of people are
Man, I
just
feel
out here
like
just trying to, yeah.
that list I got is fluid right now. It's like it keep changing on me. It's like it's like water in the river. It just keep
Mine
on
too.
changing.
Mine too. But you know what? Mine too. Mine too. And remember when you were talking about the list, and I was talking about just love, right? Love is patient, love is kind, love is, and
Yeah.
it's like it is a challenge because there are a lot of things that we just don't provide on that list
Mhm.
naturally. You know what I mean? It takes work to provide those things. And so I think one thing that I can add to my list, because I'm telling you, girl, this show has been, challenging me to grow already. And I think one of the things that I need to put on my list is just a man with a willingness to work on the relationship, who
Mm.
has it in him. You know what I mean? I don't think I've ever put that on my list before. A man who has the willingness, the mind, the dedication, and the heart to actually work on it and not without the drama. You know what I mean? Just without the drama. Now, I do believe that going through drama might be a part of a relationship. You know what I mean? To find your
Well,
type sometimes it's like.
I'm going to say this that because I wanted to ask this question a second ago. Drama and toxic behavior don't have to be the same thing. Just because you have
Oh,
drama, the things can be, you can have a situation that may cause a little bit of drama that may cause you to have some deep conversations. But what you were talking about a minute ago about somebody just doing some things just so they can get an excitement, just to get a reaction, that's toxic. So there's a difference between drama and toxic behavior. That I'm willing to deal with drama. I'm not dealing with no toxic mess, bro. You got to go.
yes, and I think that's why on my list, a man willing to do the work. And I can say that I've consistently met men who have been wanting to do the work, but they want to do the work with the wrong woman, with a woman who doesn't want to do the work, who's not as invested as he is in her. And I mean, not even to the point of, you know, just no reciprocate, very little reciprocation and consistent reciprocation. And then, I don't know, it's like if I want to put in the work, right? And I want it to be the right person. You have a lot of women that have tried to put in the work, but with the man who did not equally want to share in that work. It's just you. It's you. Okay, well, that's you that got the problem. I don't have no problem. You see what I mean? You can't work with a, you
So,
can't grow with that.
have you ever read that book called was it the Love Languages or something like that? What's the name of that book?
Oh yeah, Gary. Yeah, Gary Chapman before the Five Love Languages. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never read the book. I've just heard people reference the book. I've thought about reading it, but it just seems to me it's more of this is my understanding of it, and I haven't even read it, so I'm prejudging the book about basically selfish behavior in a person trying to figure out what they want to get from someone else. So I think that maybe I need to read the book, and then we can talk about that on the next episode because
That would
I kind of want to know because in order for you to figure out what your type is, you got to know who you are inside, and I have to figure out just for me personally what my love language is. I hate that phrase, but what my love language is, so that I can be aware when I meet someone that's actually willing to give it to me.
I think that's an excellent idea, actually. Gary, not trying, we don't have any endorsement with Gary Chapman, anything like that, but he does have that website where you can go and you can test to find out your love language.
Huh.
It's just like in the order. If you go to, I think
Challenge.
five
Okay,
love
I'm gonna do
languages challenge. Oh, that was a good episode. So yeah, like you can find that out. And it gives you in the order in which you show your love, you manifest your love in certain ways. You could even do it with your kids. There's one for your kids, it's one for your relationship, it's one for yourself. So I think one of the things with that is what you were saying about the selfishness of it. From what I got from it was that, okay, it's people make it a selfish ambition. Like,
Mhm.
you have to love me like this, when the whole point is, I have an awareness that I do this. Is this how that person likes to receive love? And it's a
Mm,
challenge, like you said, to actually move in a way now that where you can communicate how you
mm,
desire to be loved, but also communicate and say, hey, I desire to love you in these ways that you show love too, or that you like to be
mhm.
loved. So yeah, it's powerful. Wrapping it
All
up.
right.
All right,
So,
girl.
yeah. So I am going to read that book, and I've heard about it over the years, and I'm like, I'm not getting that book. I don't even like that phrase, talking about my love language is, but I'm gonna find out what my love language is, girl, and see. And we'll talk about that on our next episode. So
All
I think
right.
this was
I'll
a great.
retake the test too.
Yeah, I think it's like a really good
Mhm.
discussion. I think we talked about a lot of stuff. Just finding out what your size is. Some you want because you want somebody that's just your size, and making sure that we don't get sidetracked by mind control tactics from people who are just trying to mac on us. Right?
I think that's the perfect wrap up, girl. You
Yeah,
just
yeah.
wrapped it
Wrap it
all
up.
up. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Yes. I think that was awesome. Yeah. Another good episode, Keisha. Thank you.
All right. Well, Esther, thank you for joining me once again. And guys, we are going to go ahead and cut it off here, and we will see you all next week. Come back and join us. And if you guys get an opportunity, go and find out what your love language is. Okay. Peace. We'll see you next week.
All right.